Hi everybody, Jamie Harnish, Toronto Real Estate Navigator with Bosley Real Estate. Today I want to speak directly with buyers, especially the ones who want to employ a strategy where they look for the property on their own and then they want to work directly with the listing agent in order to buy that property. So I want to talk about that scenario, and I want to explain a little bit why I think that strategy is a mistake. Now, I think there's two kinds of types of buyers that would fall under those circumstances. You've got the type of people who are doing it intentionally because they think that there's a financial incentive or a financial reason in order to do it. And then you've also got the type of people who are doing it for reasons surrounding independence. So they want to do their own thing until they found the property that they think is right for them. Each of those buying situations come with their own motivations, and they also come with what I think are their own pitfalls. But regardless of your motivations and your reasons for wanting to work with the listing agent, I think there's an overarching issue that needs to be discussed. Now, I attempted to bring that overarching issue to the forefront by releasing a number of comics that I thought did a good job of illustrating types of situations that you would never ever either want to do or ever see in real life. So you've got this one, cartoon number 1, which demonstrates a gentleman who's got a day upcoming in court and expresses the idea of maybe sharing the lawyer with the person who is trying to incriminate him or convict him or sue him or divorce him or whatever. And when you verbalize it, obviously that situation would be insane and no one would ever do that. Then there's this one, cartoon number 2, where someone wants to go and buy a used or a new car, and it's a Ford dealership. And they explain to the salesperson what their needs and wants are in a vehicle, and the salesperson tells them to go elsewhere to a place that maybe they could buy a car that better suits their needs. That obviously would never ever happen. And then there was this one, cartoon number 3, where somebody was really wanting to have lasagna. They went out to a restaurant with a friend and asked the chef about the lasagna, and the chef really downplayed the quality of their own product and suggested that they try it at a restaurant next door. So what I wanted to do with those comics was to encourage discussion and try and get people to ask the question, whose interests are best being served? And if you are a buyer who is unrepresented and approaches a listing agent to buy that specific property, the answer to that question is not yours. The listing agent and the seller already have an agreement in place that forces the listing agent to owe the seller what's called a fiduciary obligation. It's a fancy way of saying that the listing agent has to hold the interests of the seller above their own interests and above the interests of any other party that comes along as well. And the listing agent has a job, and that job is to get the seller the most amount of money that they can under a contract that has terms that are most favorable to the seller. Your job as a buyer is to do somewhat the opposite of that, which is to acquire the property for the least amount of money that you can in terms in the contract that are favorable to you. So those things right away fly in the face of each other. And because that listing agent has a job, the first thing that they're going to try and do is sell you that house, whether it's the right house for you or not. That means that the onus is really on you in order to figure out whether that is the right property for you or not, whether that means that you really know what it is that you want or that you ask the right questions to ensure that your criteria and the criteria of the house and the neighborhood and etc. match up. And I would say personally that having worked with a lot of buyers in the past, not everybody really truly knows exactly what it is that they're looking for, and they quite often need that kind of unbiased third party with them in the role of a buyer's agent to kind of help them out, weed through the different things that they probably want or maybe really need to avoid when they're looking for the right property that's for them. So let's say that you've determined that the house is the right one for you, and so you decide to enter into an agreement with that listing realtor. So the listing realtor is now representing both you, the buyer, and the seller. So you're in a situation now called multiple representation. And if the realtor is acting in an ethical manner, what they actually have to do is they have to take a step back and act more as a mediator as opposed to being a representative of either side, because they don't have the ability to negotiate against themselves. And it's very, very difficult to represent the best interest of two separate parties who are trying to achieve somewhat separate things. I mean, ultimately, they're trying to reach an agreement of sale of the property, but the buyer wants it for less money and the seller wants it for more money, and what conditions are included, and et cetera, et cetera. It's a very, very difficult situation to manage. you, the buyer, lose the ability to have somebody on your side who's going to try and make an attempt to discover the seller's motivation or potentially the lowest price that they'd be willing to accept, because the listing agent already knows the answer to those things and they're not at liberty to disclose that information because of the agreement and the fiduciary obligation that they owe to the seller. So you're losing some major benefits to having a buyer representative by now being in this multiple representation situation. Another thing that you can't get is to have the agent recommend a price. When I work with buyers, they're constantly asking, rightfully so, what do you think it's worth? What kind of number do you think we should put on paper, etc.? And I get why they ask that question. But as soon as you're in that multiple rep situation, if the agent is acting in an ethical manner, they don't have the ability to even recommend a price. And that's another kind of important thing that I think a lot of buyers are looking for. So for those reasons and many other reasons that are going to be coming in those subsequent videos that I was talking about, I think that being in a multiple representation situation with one realtor representing both the buyer and the seller is a big mistake, both for the buyer and I think for the seller, if there's any people who are sellers who are watching this video as well. I just don't think it's the right situation more often than not. So have a look for those videos that are coming up soon. Again, I appreciate so much your time watching. If you ever have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me in any way that is comfortable for you. And I look forward to seeing you next time.